And here's the last Zenith that I was talking about in the previous video about the nice high-end JVC made Zenith. This is the VRG-75. And this one also has a bit of nostalgia to me. My grandma had this VCR. She won it in a contest. I don't know, maybe a Zeller's thing, a sewing contest. I don't know. But this sat at my grandparents' house for ages. I think she maybe used it 5 or 6 times to record some like sewing shows or soap operas and then just like never used it again. And eventually gave it to me like a decade or so later. It's a very basic model. I'm suspecting that this was from the Gold Star era. It looks very Gold Star of Zenith. I think this is like 1991 or so. The controls are just real cheap. And this is the remote that it came with. I'm assuming it's the original remote. It looks like it. Now, before I even power this on, I'm going to open it up inside because I did notice when I was carrying it, it made a lot of rattling. And I want to make sure that rattling wasn't anything metal. Okay, the rattling was a little white clip. I have no idea what that's for. I hope it's not important. I hope this isn't foreshadowing. Something weird. This smells like my grandparents' house used to smell. Wouldn't that be wild if this was that model? I don't know what happened to it. I think we left it at their cabin when they sold it in the mid 2000s or something, or maybe late 2000s. I don't know. I don't actually know what happened to it, but I think that would just be fantastic if this turns out to be that one. I mean, the chances are slim, but I mean, it's got the smell. Okay, that was weird. I powered it on, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any signal. Just says no signal. Yeah, sure, fine. But it has on-screen programming, so I can hear snow coming through the audio. So if I press menu, I should get a video signal, right? No, nothing. Okay, that's weird. Maybe if I tune in a station. Nope, nothing. Okay, well, last effort. I'll go get a CRT. Works perfectly. And then I realize this is on the HDMI input. It was on HDMI. But it was getting audio from AV2. This TV does very weird things. I don't know. Anyway, that was just a waste of my time. But now we get to look at the little CRT. Modern display there. Sorry for the rolling frame. Do a menu. Oh yeah, that's very Gold Star. Select, press enter to quit. Cool. Okay, maybe we just pop a tape in and see. Oh, that could be a problem. Is that? Can't tell if that's just an actual scraping of the rotary transformer or just dirt. Well, let's grab a tape and find out. Due to past abuse, I will be retiring this tape and continuing with this one. Oh. Okay. Well, there's a starting problem right there. Yeah, just fill up. So let's hit rewind to fill the tape back. Nothing. Fast forward. This is like the one time that I actually don't try fast forward and rewind as a first step. So belt feels, ooh, actually that does feel a little bit loose. Let's see what happens. Rewind. Yeah, it's slipping. Let me go and see if I can, ooh. Ooh. Okay, I didn't have one of the right thickness. This was a little bit too small of a diameter. But I do have this very, very tiny, meant for an audio cassette belt that we can temporarily use. So yeah, let's do rewind. Perfect. Perfect, 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 perfect. Play.
Disease. Once a year we like to get a urine sample to be sure there's nothing the matter with the kidney.
I mean, like, yeah, why wouldn't it work? Video head drum's a little noisy. Actually, no, it's not. I think that's just the sound of the head hitting the tape. The crunchiness seems to have disappeared just with centrifugal force. Play. Fast forward. Rewind, scan. Is it eating the tape? No. Looks good. And it's right near the end of the tape too. Fairly clear special effects for a 2-head.
Many patients with mild to moderate diabetes can control their metabolic abnormalities through diet and exercise alone.
I too have metabolic abnormalities. Let me see if I can switch this to like 60 frames so you can see the flickering here. Okay, this seems to be doing a fairly good job of showing what I'm seeing. There's still a bit more persistence in the camera. There's a bit of rolling. It's actually a lot more harsh of a flicker. But in general, this is the sort of noise that I'm seeing. So let's see how this goes.
Should emphasize reduction.
Oh yeah, that's very accurate.
And decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease.
And of course, this is a basic model. There's nothing. I'm showing you every button there is. And same thing on here. Get some light on these. Like, that's all you get. Pause, scan. Well, I guess there's really not much to show with this one. There's something interesting though. Let me hit stop. Turn that down. So stop shows pause. If I hit play, it shows play. Yeah, okay. And if I hit pause, it shows, I guess, would that be next track? Usually that's like a frame advance I've seen that used for, not for straight pause. What if I use like a cue? Okay, that makes sense. If I do a full fast forward, so it's that but not blinking. Crunch, 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 crunch. Okay, I mean, it's all working fine. I guess to go with the tradition lately, let's clean the mode switch. See how easy it is on this one. Here's a better look at the underside. Direct drive capstan. This is a belt drive idler, or a reel table with a little gear idler, so it's not a tire like the older one. I'm assuming there's probably a motor for loading as well, front loading on the top. It's a neat little thing here. Actually, you know, I still have a tape in it. Let's hit play. Let's see what happens. See what this looks like when it's loading. Power on. Play. And it's probably going to eat the tape because it's upside down. Yeah, it is not happy. Stop. Anyway, here is the mode switch. And it looks like it's pretty easy to service as well. There's a screw right here. I might not even have to take this all apart. There's a nice connector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a nice marking there, just in case. Pop it out. Oh, also, 1990 10/22. So October 22nd of 1990 is when this was made. So yeah, this would have been sold in 1991. And that's it. Just unplug this connector with fairly oxidized terminals. Let's see if I can get this in front of a... Yeah, fairly oxidized. I'll clean those. And I think it's just taking this clip off the top here. And this should just come apart. I don't see any timing markings, so I'm kind of glad I took a little marker and put it on there. You know what? I'm not sure I can remove this without causing damage. This is on there good, and I'm not entirely too sure what this type of push-on retaining clip is called. I can't really get a flat blade screwdriver or like a metal spudger under there to get this off. Like, I guess I could push it out from the middle, from the top, but I don't know. It seems like it's risking damaging something that seems to otherwise be working fine, so I'm gonna leave it. If anyone knows how to service these, let me know, or how to get these clips off without potentially breaking it, because I feel like that could be useful to know. So I've now looked at a 1979 Zenith Betamax VCR, or I guess Beta Director. Betamax is Sony, even though it was made by Sony. I've looked at the 1984 VR-4000, the basically clone of JVC's first hi-fi VCR, and I think the same year the VR-3010, which is a 4-head mono version, the one I did the head surgery on. Then there's the sideways loading VR-2300, I think it was. Then the late 80s VR-510HF that I looked at recently. Do I have any other Zeniths that I've looked at? I feel like I have. Anyway, there's just something I really like about them. They're so weird. The styling is weird. Everything is just unconventional. This is the most conventional of them, and I think this is sort of the end of the road for Zenith. And what's especially disappointing about this one is that it just worked, and I had to do nothing to it. Like a belt. I mean, even listen to the head now. Perfect. No problems. Didn't need a cleaning. It's just fine. I even thought, oh, well, I mean, at least it's got lots of circuitry. We can take a look under this board and then see all the craziness. And this is the only board. There's nothing down there. It's empty. There's a big metal grounding plate over there. This is all the control circuitry. That looks like Hitachi. Don't know who made that. That's the system control chip and a bunch of other stuff. And Gold Star, it's kind of a hodgepodge. I saw some Sanyo chips on the bottom and other brand components because they were kind of using whatever. I seem to remember early Gold Star VCRs had a very Panasonic looking VFD. I'm not sure if that was just coincidence or if they were actually buying old stock of those. Because I think by that point, Panasonic was using a different front display. Those were like early 80s front displays that the mid to late 80s Gold Stars used. Maybe I'll show some pictures to show what I'm talking about. Now I'm rambling. Let's test this out. Let's test some recording and do some stuff with it, I guess. Scratch that. There's a problem. It doesn't eject the tape all the way and then faults out. So it's powered on. Now it's going to try and play. So let's cancel out of that. Hit eject. And watch what happens. It tries to go up, falls, tries again, and then doesn't quite make it out, and faults. You know what? I bet it's related to this clip. I'm seeing a little spring-loaded bit down here. See that spring? Old plastic. Wait, what? I okay, this one just fell off. This one is still connected, and this one felt soft and just sort of went. It's really bad plastic, or it's been broken before. Maybe it doesn't feel like someone's been in here. I don't know, maybe it was dropped. I had to make it a complete set. All right, it looks like that little white piece was part of this. So there's a little spring that's supposed to be on this set of gears. It actually goes between this outer gear that pulls the carriage and that other gear inside here. Now let's see if I can get enough light. See that edge right where I have the spring hooked? That sort of oddly shaped edge? That is where that broke off of. It had a little hook to hold a spring, and you can see where the other side of the spring goes there. Now this spring is obviously not the right one. I have no idea what happened to the right one. It doesn't appear to be inside here. I've shaken this to the best of my abilities. It's either long gone, maybe it fell out of the machine. Didn't seem like someone's been inside, maybe. I don't know. At any rate, the hard part's going to be finding a spring that fits. There's lots to hook onto. I could even melt a small hole to hook the spring onto there. It's just finding with enough tension. I don't think this one will have enough lift force. Well, it's better. Still faults out, but I can grab the tape. So it looks like what that spring does is, as the motor's lifting up, the tape stops, and then it starts to build tension, spring tension in the spring, and then it just sort of goes whoop, and shoots the tape out using the spring. So I just need to put a stronger spring in there, I think. All right, let's hope that's enough spring tension, because I don't want to cut this spring any shorter. Hey! So the last missing piece of the puzzle was, of course, and you probably remember this on other VCRs, a little bit of spring tension on this gear. So this front-loading mechanism is held on with two screws, one there and one there. And when you put it back in, you kind of hook it forward and then down. And what I needed to do is take a little flat blade screwdriver and just push this gear, and you'll be able to feel it's got a bit of, a couple teeth you can move it to load the spring. And that just helps it throw the tape out. Perfect. So you may be asking, why did I bother? I mean, this was a cheap run-of-the-mill disposable VCR when it was new. And the simple reason is because I like these. I like how unique and aged they are. I like how quirky they are. I like the moving parts. I like the fact that this machine holds nostalgia for me, because one exactly like it, possibly even this exact one, was a part of my youth. Well, here's something I wish more manufacturers had done back then. Look at how easy it is to see what all these connectors and switches do, because it's written in nice silver writing, if I unplug this, facing up. So you don't have to look all the way down at that embossed plastic to know which ones are which. So I was looking at this and I was questioning, okay, this has a counter, right? How do I reset it? There's no counter reset on the front controls, and there's no counter reset on here. Do you know how you do it? Hit menu, and it brings you to here, and then you have to hit enter, and then it brings you to the option menu. So this is where you auto search, or I guess favorite is add and delete, and there's a counter reset. So you hit 3 and then 1, which I'm not going to do because I'm actually using that counter right now. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, I'm going to do some test recordings on a tape way nicer than this machine deserves. Also play back some other recordings on it, show you how it looks, standard fare. One other thing that makes me just very suspicious about whether this is the VCR I actually had is that out at the lake, we got UHF stations. It's a long story. There's a transmitter nearby that gave a bunch of UHF channels. So all the stuff out there was set to UHF instead of cable TV. Most people who lived in this city would have any of their equipment set to cable because most people had cable. This has a switch on the back and it's set to antenna for UHF. So more evidence that this is the one that I remember. Anyway, I cleaned it up. I think it looks pretty good. Even missing those little clips on the front. Front rattles a little bit, but it's not bad. Ignore this, I haven't cleaned the inside yet. See? Now it looks nice and clean. Beautiful. Okay, let's do some test recordings.
Tremendous, gargantuan, spectacular!
Enjoy the holidays. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Hockey Saturdays are back with the PWHL on CBC. Watch the Minnesota Frost hit the ice against the Toronto Raptors. The puck drops Saturday at 2 on CBC and CBC Gem.
This program is brought to you in part by Lego Canada. This holiday season, you can gift the superpower of play.
He's bringing the play back.
What you doing up there, buddy?
Observing, helping. You could take note. This one goes to 11.
Fuzzy! They'll love it.
I can tell you one thing, never lack, always look forward, never look back, looking at me.
Get 0% financing for up to 72 months and up to 6,000.
I was born in 3023. Humans had already conquered space, even though it was easy to travel to the farthest galaxy.
15 years after Earth, humanity's last hope is Titan AE. Lock on.
Let's do it.
And strike back. Wing Commander.
My friend told me this thing about men and sex, that they think about it 238 times a day.
Everyone knows.
My strategy? I go for high endurance.
I combine a strong attack ring with a stabilizer base.
Beyblade. You can customize the battle the way you want.
Do not lean over stadium when Beyblade tops are in play.
I spin with a deluxe launcher.
Tops may bounce up and hit all your face.
All interchangeable, all action. So what's your spin?
Let it rip! Let it rip! Let it rip!
Beyblade. Assembly required. Beyblade Tops, Space Stadium Arena, and deluxe launcher sold separate.
What a perfectly adequate little machine. I wouldn't say any of that was anything to write home about, but, you know, back in the day, if you just wanted to make recordings, perfectly fine. The tuner's pretty lackluster, so a lot of the noise you were seeing on the test recordings is from that. Also, you may have noticed the tracking going in and out a little bit on the EP recording, recorded off TV 20 years ago. That's one of these tapes. These pink Memorex tapes, you don't see these very often. You see the blue and gold ones. Those were fine. These are garbage. These are shit. Every single one that I found is all stretched. So no matter what, when you're playing it back, the tracking goes in and out and in and out because the tape is a little bit stretched and just does that. Every single one of these does that. They were either recorded on a garbage machine or they are garbage. I think it's the latter, but yeah, this machine handled it about as good as I would expect. Really, the only problems with this machine. We interrupt this conclusion for more problems. A new problem has arisen. Doesn't seem to want to rewind on certain tapes. Fast forward works. Play works. Cue works. And review also works. So it looks to me like the clutch inside this pulley here is not working. So if I hit rewind, this is spinning, but you can hear the clutches kind of clicking in there. So I guess time to take this apart. All right, I think I've pinpointed the problem, and it wasn't actually that clutch assembly. When this goes into fast forward or rewind, it pulls this piece like that, and then the gear that sits on top of it meshes with 4 clips, and it's supposed to drop down with this. And what was happening is it was stuck on this shaft. So it feels free now. I don't know if it was just jammed from years of sitting there. So looking from the top side, you can see. So looking from the top side, you can see this is the pendulum gear or idler gear, and this is the gear that drives it. You can see it moves up and down, and it was stuck down there so that it wouldn't move. No, sorry, it was the other way around. It was stuck up. So when it would pull back, this wouldn't follow. I think there's supposed to be a spring, so that like a spring pushing it this way. So when this gets pulled down, this gear follows. See, when I lift this up, you can see that this piece will spin freely and those little teeth don't mesh with that gear up there. And then I can drop it in, or see, I have to spin it and it'll click into place. So what's happening is when this gets lifted down for fast forward or rewind, that gear isn't falling into place. And I gotta ask, why does that gear need to come down? And why isn't it following? What I'm thinking is this is pushing into the clutch to increase the friction so that you get more torque. So the clutch is less likely to slip in fast forward and rewind than it is in play mode. Play mode, you want more of that free spinning, so that, because this obviously is going to spin at a different speed than the take up or supply reel is supposed to in, you know, I guess take up supply reel in play. Whereas if you're fast forward or rewinding, this is actually moving the tape, not the capstan. So you want to increase the torque. But the question is, why is that upper gear not following it? No, there's no evidence of a spring inside there. I think it's just supposed to go off of gravity. Maybe it was just jammed. Oh yeah, looking at this closer, see those little catch teeth? There's 4 of them there. Those mesh up with those little bumps. So yeah, in fast forward and rewind mode, it basically bypasses this clutch on the bottom. So you still have the clutch on the idler, but it bypasses this secondary slip clutch. No go, still wouldn't work. I noticed that when it wouldn't work afterwards, this gear was completely stuck up. Like, see how now I can push it down? It was completely stuck and immovable. Well, I don't get it. On closer inspection, this gear is staying locked up because this spring is pushing on it. So this little piece inside here, this little ring that the spring sits in, is part of this upper gear. So it already has a spring pushing on it, so when this gets pulled down and the spring is still pushing that way, obviously these two are going to separate, like that. But the issue is, and you can probably maybe sort of see it if I zoom in here, see those teeth move higher than the lower gear. And in normal operation, they move just high enough to become a problem. And I'm wondering if this is just maybe plastic shrinking over age, or maybe someone had this apart and lost a washer. So I'm going to add a washer. I think this clip might just be tired. It's hard to tell because this phone really sucks, but it is kind of bent in a bit of a concave manner. I noticed that when I pulled it off, actually. So I'm wondering if just the years of spring force pushing this way kind of bent it up just a little bit. Because if I push this down, just like a hair, those gears mesh. You want to know what the solution was? That C-clip that was bent concave, I just flipped it around. It probably needs to be replaced, but I don't have any of this exact size. Let's get a zoom in there. So I just flipped it around. But something as simple as this just bending a little bit out of shape, that design has such tight tolerances, I wonder if it's plastic shrinking and a combination of this clip. It's just silly. Anyway, back to the conclusion already in progress. Really, the only problems with this machine were entropy. All plastic. Dinosaur juice was never meant to do this. This will eventually be microplastics. Okay, bye.